Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be doing a Q2 reset. So that's similar to a monthly reset, except for it's going to be doing all of my reflection and goal setting for the last quarter coming into the new quarter. And this is around the 12-week year goal setting process, which is what I use to set short-term goals and work intensely on those goals. I'll have a playlist about how to do that linked down below, because I don't really want to spend much time doing that in this video, but I will just be going through my process for how I reflect on the previous 12 weeks and then reset for the next 12 weeks. So the way the 12-week year works, the way I do it in terms of dates, I started on Monday, January 3rd, 2022, and today, April 3rd, which is a Sunday, is the end of these 13 weeks. So the way it works is you do 12 weeks of intense work, then you have a 1-week break. And I was just in New York last week and I tried to do this video in advance, but I felt I just couldn't really do it when I hadn't had the full 12 weeks done. I just couldn't do the full reflection. And I'm really glad now that I'm refilming this, because I feel like there's a couple of areas that I feel very differently after being to New York and after a couple of things have just sort of wrapped up this week. So I'm glad that I did that. So the next 12 weeks then will start today, tomorrow, Monday, April 4th. That will go on for 12 weeks, finishing on June 26th. And then the week of June 27th will be a week off. Now, I may end up taking my week off throughout that time and whatever way, but the way you're meant to do it is you do 12 weeks of intense work, then you have a week to just sort of like reflect, maybe get set up for the next 12 weeks. And so I have definitely been reflecting while being away, and I think that was necessary. So I'm glad that I didn't sort of upload those videos before I had that time away. And it just means I need to plan better for next term in terms of when I want these videos to go up. The first thing that you'll need to do is set up a long-term vision. So have a sense of where you want your life to go in a long-term way. And that can change, of course, but it's just to have a sense of what it is you want your life to look like. It definitely can change, but it means you shouldn't be changing it drastically, I think, very frequently. It could be just that there's a general trend, but how you get there is probably going to be very different. And then you want to start to break down into more medium-term goals. That's like what you want 1 to 2 years to look like. And then you get down into the short-term goals, which is 12 weeks at a time. You have to do that first, or else your goals, you might just end up copying somebody's goals or doing things you don't really care about. It's really important for the motivation element that you have it linked to your long-term vision. And the way I do this, I have this in my Notion template. So I actually have 2 Notion templates. One is for PhD students specifically, so it'll include all of this plus PhD stuff. And then one is just for productivity, so that's all of this stuff and then minus any PhD stuff. And I will divide these goals into the 8 different areas of life based on the wheel of life. And I actually split the work up into PhD work, the work for the business that I run, and then brand work, which is all of this. You can also split up whatever areas you want, or, add or remove or whatever way, but I do think it's important to really think about each of these areas. So I'm going to be going through one area in detail. And I don't know if I'll do this for the whole time, because I think it's probably going to take about 20 minutes each, and I'm sure you don't want to see that. So that will just give you a sense of how I go through the process of reflecting, setting new goals, and then planning for those new goals in a way. The first area that I'm going to go through, because it's first on my list, is the business. And just to mention, I have a couple of tabs open here for my Notion template, and I use all of these sort of in sequence together. So I have my reflection and goal setting, which is where I have the actual goals and everything. And it's linked to my mind sweep, which is any projects and tasks, which I keep on a rolling task list. I think in the actual Notion template, it's called tasks and projects or something like that. But I just call mine mind sweep. And then I also have my year at a glance, which is basically all of the dates coming up throughout the year. And I really should have this in some sort of database, but visually I prefer it the way it is. And it would be handy if it was linked to my quarterly goals, but it's not. So yeah, you can do that if you want to, but that's just the way I like having it. And so basically I'll just keep any dates that are upcoming that aren't in this current month, anything that comes up, like if I get an email about an event, or I plan something for a future month, I'll just put all of those into my year at a glance rather than having them in the calendar, which I don't really feel like I get to see things properly, whereas I can easily look through this whole thing and see what's coming up for the next couple of months. I've also reorganized the year at a glance in my Notion to have them in 3-month cycles, and that's just easier when it comes to looking at each 12-week period, because I previously had them in 3-4 month stages. So let's get into the business. So a brief understanding of the business that I run. I run a speech and drama school based in Ireland. It's a business that has been in business for 63 years this year, and that is definitely not something I expected to be doing at this stage of my life, or indeed during my PhD, because it is definitely a full-time commitment that I now have on top of another full-time commitment. So it means having to put in full-time work for 2 different enterprises, I guess, or 2 different activities every week. And the reason that I do that is I was a student myself from a young age. As I grew up, I did a teaching diploma, was teaching casually there for a number of years, and started to help out a bit more when I started my PhD. I was appointed to director in 2020, in early 2020, and the founder, who was still teaching at the age of 83, unfortunately passed away in the summer after the first year of my PhD. And that even in itself was really hard to deal with, because we were so close, and all of the teachers, I think we were so close with her, and it's a hard thing to explain to somebody because it's so much more than like a childhood teacher passing away. It was really difficult, and then it meant that I was now running this business. It was sort of fine for the founder because she was at a stage where she could just sort of work and be doing it out of the wanting to just keep it going. But now that I was running it, I needed to be able to employ people to take the classes that I couldn't take, and needed to be able to pay those people, which meant that we needed to be making more money, enough money to pay people. So that meant there was a huge amount of work to do in order to have enough classes for the teachers to have enough hours, and enough students in those classes for the classes to earn enough to pay the teachers. And then there needed to be enough classes. It's sort of a big thing. So we're finally at a point where it's at a good equilibrium of, we have enough classes, we have enough teachers, the school is earning enough to pay people. There's definitely been a dip last year in terms of income, but I think we had to honestly spend money to make money, and I know that's not actually a good business practice, but in this case it was fair, and we do have some money coming soon from the founder's estate that will sort of cover the cost that it has taken to expand. We've also gone from being a cash and check business to being a little bit more savvy. We only recently got online payments fully sorted, and there's just been a lot of that kind of work that I've needed to do, and sort of a lot of time spent just sort of catching up, because as we expanded to try and have enough classes and enough students and enough teachers, it's just sort of skyrocketed in terms of growth. We've gone from 50 students to 150 students in 2 years, and it's meant that there's been a lot of scrambling just to manage the demand, and that was basically what the entirety of 2021 was. So in 2022, it's about being steady and being able to be comfortable with where we are, and be able to make good choices about expanding, and do that in a controlled way. So my vision for the next 1 or 2 years, my sort of medium-term vision with the school, is that we will have expanded to 2 more locations, and have a couple of our previous students returning as teachers, and regularly be doing workshops in schools and libraries and everything. And I'll be more focusing on the expanding, and having other people sort of doing more of the administrative work that I'm currently doing. And that we will have done a St. Patrick's Day performance, summer shows, and a Christmas performance in a theatre. And the plan is to have about 200 students by this time next year, so meaning at the end of this year. I also want to be able to employ one of our teachers as a full school manager, so we need to be able to make enough money to do that, because right now I sort of just do a lot of work for free. I basically will cover the classes that I teach, and then some admin work, but in terms of director's fees, I don't take anything for that. I can't give someone that job because we don't have enough money to pay someone to do that, if that makes sense. So that's that. In terms of what I wanted to do for quarter one, it was around really trying to build a good foundation for the school. As I said, in the last year, we had been growing a lot. However, it was not necessarily a good controlled process. It was definitely a little bit messy. And this year, the plan is to be growing at a controlled rate. And so I wanted to make sure for this first quarter that I had put down a good foundation for being able to build onto. So making sure all of our current classes are all good, making sure all of our current teachers are all good and that they know exactly what they need to do before trying to expand to any new classes. Making sure that we're achieving everything we want to be with these current classes, and making sure that we're doing all we can in terms of like auditions and everything like that. So that's definitely been the main focus this first quarter. Now there's been other projects that have come up that are been a bit unexpected, and I'll go through that in a second. In terms of what actually we did. There's still a lot to be done in terms of some of those things I mentioned, but this is one thing that I struggle with in terms of this business, is actually being able to, reflect and say, I did really good work, and that I am doing a good job, because it's hard when I've got these two areas of my life, being the business and the PhD, that I feel like are constantly sort of taking away from each other, that for both of these, I am really, really critical of my work and just really self-critical, I guess, in the way that I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I don't feel like I'm doing a good job. I feel like everyone in both of those areas must think that I'm a terrible student / employer, whatever way, manager. And as somebody who is I definitely sort of put my self-worth with work. It's really difficult to feel that way. So I found that doing this reflection and just being able to actually look at all the stuff that I achieved, that I did this quarter, has helped a little bit to be able to say that I have done some good work. I had a couple of big stresses, and that's also something that I like to reflect on, because the business would definitely be an area that I find there's a lot of stress, because there's a lot of pressure given that it's a business that's been established for 60 years and there's a huge legacy. Like there's been hundreds, thousands maybe of students through the years, and so there's a big pressure that comes with being the director of that company. And there's a lot of people's expectations on me in terms of what the students expect, what the parents expect, what the teachers might expect, what the past pupils expect, what people who are more distantly maybe related to the business expect, what I expect, what the founder might expect. And so it's very stressful, and I try to reflect on how much stress I have from it. I think it's something I'm actually working through at the moment with my counsellor, is in managing that and understanding where it comes from. And a lot of it is having such high expectations for myself, that and thinking that all these people have all these expectations when realistically a lot of people don't, and sort of trying to just be able to be peaceful about what I am able to do, what I am able to control, and everything like that. So we've gone from, I think, around 110 students to definitely 150 students, possibly a couple more, but at least 150 students, which has been great growth for this term. Really good growth. Well on track to reach our 200 goal. I suppose in terms of things that we did, projects that I undertook that we brought to the end, was, first of all, we had the entirety of term 2, which is a 10-week term from January to March, and at the end of which we did a St. Patrick's Day sort of audio performance with each class. Now, it's been a bit of a pity because I really would have liked that we were able to do that in person, and it wasn't like COVID restrictions that stopped that, but rather people being absent due to COVID and still getting back to being properly doing performances and not necessarily having lines learnt and things like that. So the plan is to do a performance at the end of next term, which will be fully in person, and that will be our first in-person one in, a long time, over 2 years. We had to prepare for an auction, and that is going to be for the founders' personal items, some really nice jewellery and clothes and artwork and furniture, and that will be going into a trust that will benefit the school so that we can go on for a long time, which will be very helpful. And with that, there was a lot of publicity that we had to do as the school. And so we had a couple of newspaper articles come out about us and mentioning my name specifically. And there was a camera crew who came in from RTE, which is a news station in Ireland, and they filmed a programme for Nationwide on our school and on the history of the school. And they, we interviewed some past pupils, we interviewed myself and some other teachers and some students. We filmed a lot of content, and that was a huge project. That was a really quick turnaround and a very stressful one, just because it's huge exposure, I think, for the school and then for me personally, but also as the runner of the business, that it was a lot of stress, about how it was all going to come together, whether it was going to be good, and just worry about what way it might come together, if that makes sense. And I just had a lot of sort of worry that it was going to be negative in some way, like some people were going to have negative opinions or something. And it ended up being brilliant. I only got to watch it just this week, and honestly it was incredible. I'm so thankful to the people who organised it, and I'm so proud of everyone who was involved in it. It was fantastic, and I think it's definitely probably going to do some great things for us as a school, and I think it's going to be such a nice thing to be able to look back at forever. And all of the past pupils that I work with now as teachers, we all feel the same way, that we just want to keep it going and make sure that everyone gets that same experience that we did. So that was one big thing that we did, huge thing, really big. We got online classes set up, so we have a couple of students doing online classes for children, a couple doing adults, a couple one-on-ones, and that's been going, that's good. We did a staff party, which was great because we haven't been able to do anything as a group this entire time. So we went to see a play, and that was really nice, and we had some food and drinks, and that was great, and we all stayed healthy afterwards, which is good. We did a children's theatre trip, so we took some of the kids to the theatre. We haven't gotten to do an adults one, or we haven't gotten to do a teens one yet, so that's planned for next term. We got some castings. We had some people cast in a couple of things, and we had some of the kids on a podcast, which was nice. We did a big competition, and we usually have this in the second term, but unfortunately that one was cancelled, so we had to sort of quickly scramble to get in a load of entries for one in February, and then had the live final in March. And we had a number of students, I think about half of them got into the finals, which was really good. And I was really happy with that, especially because it was something a bit unexpected as a project. Then for what else did we do? We had term 3 set up, so that's started just now, and there's still going to be, obviously, throughout this term, work to be done. And then also we got summer courses set up for most of our venues, so that involved contacting a lot of venues, locking down dates. Then we did a big overhaul of the website, so you can now actually book the summer courses through our website and pay for them through our website for the first time ever, which is huge because, as I mentioned, we were a cash and check business 2 years ago. So just being able to actually do all of that is fantastic. And it'll just mean that in terms of the organisation for the summer courses, it'll be a lot less burden on me to try and organise the payments and the bookings and everything. It's a little bit more streamlined in that way. And the registration all happens through the website. It's such a big deal. Oh, and that's something we are only just getting our summer courses sorted around June of last year, and the year before I think it was even later, because we only were able to do a couple weeks in August based on COVID restrictions. And so this is the first time where we've just been able to go ahead with them, and it's really been great. I think even just to say that I'm 3 months ahead of where we are last year is something that I need to be able to just congratulate myself for. So I gave myself an 8 out of 10 of how well I did with the work that I set out. I think because there's still some work to be done this term on streamlining our casting and still, I suppose, our communications as well. But I think overall I have to just be able to say that, even though I find it difficult to be able to give myself that kind of score. So in terms of what I'm focusing on for Q2 for the business, that is something I need to look at in terms of my year at a glance first, to look at what's coming up, because it's the type of business where we always have things on. So it's important to look at what we have coming up before we actually go ahead and try to do anything extra. So in April, for example, what do we have? We have the auctions. That's going to be next week, so there'll be some work to do around that, just publicizing that. I'm actually giving a poetry lecture on the 28th of April in person, so there's not a lot of work I need to do for that, but that's definitely just something that's coming up. We need to do the teens theatre trip. We need to do all of the headshots for the students. That's going to be happening this month. So that's already 4 things for this month. And then also summer courses, I think for this whole term, getting people to book in for summer courses will be a big thing. And then for May, at the end of May, we'll have the students' exams. So exams is already a project just to get everyone booked in. And then we'll also have the end of term 3 performance. And then in June, we have some workshops for Cruinnú Nóg, which is on the 11th of June. We have the final performances. We have Bloomsday, which is just sort of a big day for the school. And then we also want to have our archive ready for either our founder's anniversary, which is on June 5th, or her birthday, which is on July 5th. So that's a big project. Summer courses start on June 20th, so we need to be ready for at least that first summer course, which is where we're going to have a big performance, so we need to book stuff for that performance. And then we're going to also have an adults performing arts course starting then as well, which is going to be a 10-week course. And the only extra thing that I would add to that would be having our online platform of courses ready for the summer. That might be a little bit too much, but because we're currently doing like our online foundation course, I think if I could just get some time after each week or before each week to record the class, that would be a good start. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in. So let's see, what do we have then? So in my quarterly goal setting template now, you can see all of the projects. I have in total 13 projects related to the business. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is go onto my Minesweep page, go to each of these projects and basically brainstorm all of the tasks related to that project. So in total, I've ended up with, I think, like 30 plus tasks related to each of those 13 projects, which is honestly not that many. But the way it sort of works is these are like the next actions. So like what I can do sort of now. And then like obviously as those get done, there'll be more to do that come along based on those. So yeah, that is basically an overview of what I do there. And usually what I'll do, not quite now because I need to get on with the rest of this video, but I will then go and just reorganize some of those tasks. So like figure out what context they should be in. So like, are they emails? Are they things I need to do as phone calls? And just like, are they errands, you know, and then start to organize like when I can do some of those. And usually that I'll just set aside some time every day for admin work. And a lot of these tasks, especially to do with the school, will be admin work. So, that's usually how the business work sort of goes. A lot of what I do is this sort of administrative work. Like there's not that much I need to do in terms of creative work right now, which is sad. Or even sometimes I just won't put that in. So like, for example, I need to, you know, plan my classes every week. So that's put in more as a habit. Other weekly habits that I've put in are getting the email to inbox 0. And really I should be doing that on a daily basis, but that's not super achievable right now. Checking up on the students and the classes, and then checking in with the teachers. And then monthly wise, I need to do a payroll and then sending all of our expenses to our invoicing system. And that's pretty much it for the moment. So moving on to PhD goals. So I feel like I've been maybe not last term. I don't feel like at any point, I'm calling them terms now. So in the first 12-week year, I think my main focus was the business, the brand, and then I don't know, maybe like health and well-being. I could say that perhaps, or maybe physical environment was, I'm not sure. I sort of then dipped into basically some of the other ones, but those I think were the two main focuses, whereas I think PhD is going to be a main focus this quarter. So I have been working on a paper for the whole of the last 12 weeks and it's still going, and it's definitely getting frustrating at this point because I just want it to be finished. So it's coming towards the end. It is for a journal, so with that being a rolling deadline, it usually means they can just take longer because other things can come up. And I finished up work on one of the classes that I was doing some teaching work for, and I have to finish up this term work for 2 classes that I'm doing work for. And then the main thing is papers. So we need to finish up this paper. There's a deadline coming up for ICCBR, which is at the end of April, and then at the beginning of May there's a deadline coming up for Rexis, and to try and do both those papers is very ambitious. I don't know if we'll get them both done, where the ICCBR paper would be completely new analysis required, whereas the Rexis work will be taking something that we did in a paper that was a very small focus and building it out for a larger focus, because we didn't really spend enough time on it for how significant it was. And so there is obviously new analysis to go with that as well, but I think it'll be a bit of an easier win because I already know that there's significant results there. And then there's an industry collab paper, but that won't be happening until probably more like mid to end of May, June. So if all goes well, I will have done 4 papers in the next 12 weeks, following on from not having submitted one now in a full year. So balance, I guess, and that is the goal for these 12 weeks. So it's going to have to be a main focus. In terms of tasks, like I will have just rolling tasks that go with the paper. It's really going to be more like making sure that every day I have at least 4 hours of work put in for working on these. But like I only have a couple of tasks, and that's because I sort of know what I need to do, and it's just going to be continuing process. It's not like an admin type thing. It will be when it comes to writing up the paper, because I'll have things to do when it comes to like fixing up graphs, and I have one of those tasks for the current paper, but otherwise it is just continuous work. To do with the brand then, a reflection on how things went. So as I mentioned, that sort of was definitely a main focus, and that was around sort of consistency. And I posted 1 or 2 videos a week on YouTube and somewhere between 3 and 5 posts a week on Instagram. And it was very, very good how the growth developed. For Instagram in particular, it's gone from about 4,000 followers to what could have been 15,000 had I pushed a little bit harder in the last couple of weeks. But it's 14,500 today, which is insane growth. Over 10,000 followers in 12 weeks. I could not have imagined, 13 weeks, I guess. I could not have imagined that when I started. Like I put in one vanity metric into here for my vision for the whole year, which was to get to 20,000 followers. And I honestly think if I'd worked as hard as I did in the first month of this year for the February and March, I probably could have gone to that. But I did decide obviously to focus on other elements, and I think sometimes it's just you have to do that. And I wanted to be working with one brand per month for sponsorships, and I wanted to be earning a total of €1,000 per month from my brand. And this current month in March, I think I earned close to €2,500. Now that's, I don't think, going to be a regular occurrence, but I think already in terms of what I hoped for with this entire year, I'm very much on track. And I also did a couple of extra things that I wasn't anticipating. So I did one speaking engagement, which was a sort of productivity workshop with a college. And I also did a talk, like a part of a panel on building a personal brand as a student. So it was really great to be able to be recognized, I think, for that. And I was really happy with everything I did this quarter in terms of working with the brands. I really liked the brands that I worked with, and I think I paced them relatively well. The only thing I think I didn't do well was having 2 sponsors in March. I think was a little bit much. And I think I've basically figured out how to consistently do all of this work while having the other things going on. This is the most consistent I've been since I started the channel. And especially like when everything happened with taking on the school, it meant that my consistency that had been okay in the first couple of months that I had my YouTube channel just completely went out the door in the summer of 2020 and has been really, really rocky since then. So this is the first time in a long time that I've been this consistent. And so I just want to sort of keep that up. I do have a couple of things that I am going to be trying out this quarter. Based on the workshop that I gave, it really gave me the sense that I needed to put everything that I have into like one place, like different to the Notion template, more of a guide that I think would be worth trying to focus on this quarter. I also want to work more on affiliates. So that would be earning income through affiliate links. So basically anything I'm talking about that I do just promote a link that I will earn a small commission from. Because I'm already talking about these products, it sort of just makes sense to try and earn a little bit of money from that, if that makes sense. And I have heard that that can be a really great and somewhat easy way to continue to earn for a longer time. Social media is very up and down, it's hard to know. And then as well, it can be a really good way for people to support creators. So like Catherine Manning would definitely be one of the YouTubers that I try to support. And anytime I'm buying new equipment, I do try and follow her links so that I know she earns some affiliate income through that. I've also been approached about doing some consulting, and that is something I would like to try, but I'm a little bit apprehensive about it. And then the other thing that I really need to do just to set myself up, basically I just want to keep going for this quarter with what I have, and then potentially, you know, come together with that guide and then add in the affiliates and potentially consulting. That's actually a lot now that I'm saying it. But my overall goal is to just sort of keep going with what I'm doing. And I think I've figured out a good schedule in terms of when I script, basically to start having vlogs every Sunday or like some sort of video like that on a Sunday, and then have more of a informative video on a Wednesday or Thursday. To help with that, I made a purchase, which is a new camera. This is a blog camera, a Sony ZV-1 I think it's called, and this fits in a new handbag which I bought, which you'll see in my New York vlog. And it's really, I think, going to be a game changer for vlogging, because right now I film on my DSLR, which is huge, and that's great for these sort of sit down videos where it's better to have that really high quality in terms of the visual, but in terms of carrying it around it's just not practical. Whereas this, like, it's really light, and this was about $750. This is a brand business expense, and it'll be coming out of the money that I earn through the brand, and I'm hoping that it will help a lot with being more consistent in terms of vlogging, because it's so much easier to carry this around, especially because I've ordered like a small tripod and mic, so that basically this will be just ready to go, and it'll fit again still into a handbag size, so that wherever I'm going it'll be usable. I think the main thing is that the lens sort of pops out, rather than on the DSLR the lens is like attached, and obviously you could sort of separate them, but it would then mean you were not ready to go. And I have another holiday booked for April, so it'll be a lot handier to have that. So that's already a project that I have achieved for the next term. And then so with the videos on Wednesday, essentially I'll be pre-filming those the week before. So, and then the week before that will be the time that I'm sort of scripting, especially when it's brand one, it'll probably come even further along before, because I do send the sort of scripts. And this has definitely been a big learning experience, because this quarter is my first time doing sponsorships, and I think they've gone well. And I think because of the way I'm sort of building a whole video around it, I think it still means that it's not taking away from my channel, because sometimes I find that having like the just clips in a video sort of can take away from the viewing experience. But if you'd like for me to talk more about these types of things, I actually really find it interesting, and I love other people's content around this. So if you want more information on like the brand and how I run that and everything like that, just let me know. Yeah, so main projects will be sort of sorting out my new sponsorships, because I sort of sorted that out at the beginning of last term, and I sort of don't have any planned now for these next 12 weeks, so I need to get them sorted. I have a couple of brands that I'm talking to, but none that I've booked in. And then I also need to plan all my videos, I think, for the 12 weeks when it comes to the weekly more informative videos. I'd like to just have a plan for them going, so that I can start to like script those in advance and just not be scrambling. So like, I know this week is going to be difficult because I have to film and edit and upload this video today, and the same thing on Wednesday, which is not going to be great. But in typical times, I'd like it to be a bit more organized. So finances, I would like to start investing this quarter. I think I'm doing well in terms of budgeting. I won't be budgeting in this video just because there's too much going on already. I think I'll do a separate video with that. And then, yeah, I think I would like to start investing because I'm at the point where I think it's just going to start to get to the point where there's savings past what I'm most likely to use for a mortgage payment. And it means I could be earning money if I invested it now rather than waiting. So that's something that I'd like to do. In terms of physical environment, I did clear out my whole family bedroom like since I moved. I did that this term and that was really great, and it meant I had some time where I was able to return to a nice clean bedroom at home when I go home to mind Lola. And I also then moved into my brother's room. My brother moved into my room, so I do stay at home like maybe once a week, one night a week, to mind our family dog. And so it still has a bit of work to do in now that new bedroom. And at our home, me and Jack's house here, we did a lot of work to get the downstairs of our house sorted, so we got somewhere to put our shoes and like just store some of the living room stuff that was just like constantly all over the place. And we also got something in the kitchen which is going to do the same, so it was all for like glassware, and that just gave us a lot more storage. And now we've sort of got our bin situation sorted, we've got our bathroom sorted. The last thing we need to do, which has sort of meant to be done this time, but you know, we didn't get it all done, so we are going to work on fixing up this office. So we have bought a sort of pull-out bed which is going to go here, and that's going to be sort of like a sofa for, you know, if you want to work casually during the day. And then we still need to get rid of this. Oh wait, you can't see that. Oh yeah, you can. The sort of bed, it's like halfway gone, and the mattress for it is like in our hall, so that's going to be moved to my family home for storage. That's pretty much it for physical environment. The other thing, actually, in my family home, we're going to be doing a big clear out. So whenever I go home on a Sunday, we're going to be doing some work to just clear out from different areas. Like the upstairs in the attic, we have like a lot of children's toys from when we were kids, and just trying to get rid of all of that. In terms of romance and relationships, I think we did well. We got some nice dates last month or last quarter. We set up our joint finances, which was really good. And we went to Galway for a couple of days, and we planned a holiday which is now going to be taking place in April. Jack's birthday is also in April, so those are like the two main things. And then we're starting to make some plans for the summer, which will be really nice. But otherwise, I don't really have any work there, so I think I can just leave that area of life. For family and friends, then I feel like I did really well on this in January, and then not so much in February, and I had been feeling not so much in March, except for I do feel the holiday to New York with my family and seeing my best friend Callan sort of changed my perspective with that. So I do feel like it's important that I need to make sure I'm keeping up with that. So I have in the projects to just make some plans for going to Galway over the next couple of months, and then hopefully I'll be able to go a bit more in the summer because my weekends will be free. I also have a couple of friends that I haven't seen now since January that I need to make some plans with, and I know I'll be seeing Callan because she'll be home soon, and I'll be seeing Rebecca because she'll be home soon, and I'll see Connor at one of those two, if not both of those events. So at least I'll see some of those friends, but I still have a couple friends, Amy and Abigail, that I need to make plans with and make sure that I see them, especially because they're moving in the summertime. So I need to make the most of them while they're still here. So in terms of fun and recreation, I really didn't do well with this in the last quarter, and I sort of feel like I'm not going to do super well with this in this quarter. I don't feel like I'll really get good at this until the summertime, and I think maybe I just need to accept that. So my plan was to, you know, start going on some holidays, which, to be fair, I've been to Galway. I think I'm going to go to Galway again next month, and then we just went to New York. I'm going to Rome next month, so, and I have a couple more things like that planned, so I think that will happen in terms of holidays. I've been cooking a little bit, not a lot. Like, I do cook every week, but more so in terms of like trying new things with cooking. I haven't really done that, but we have a couple of food festivals planned for the summer, so I know that's going to be coming in then. I sort of feel like basically this won't be happening until June. I would like to be working more on like performance work, and I think what I'd like to do is to start sort of a booktube YouTube channel, which will be sort of related to the theatre school business, but also for me for fun. And I don't think I'll actually get good at reading for fun until I do that, which I know is not good because it's like sort of a business thing, but I do feel like sometimes I just need that to help me do things. Then in terms of personal growth, last quarter, I honestly think I worked a lot on procrastination. I feel like I got a lot better at that. Like I still do put things off occasionally, but honestly, I think I've really started to get better at it, and that's through this like sort of task management system. I really feel it's a huge one. So if you haven't listened or read the book Getting Things Done by David Allen, you got to do it. It takes, I'd say, a good year to be fully implementing things, but it's made such a huge difference. And I'm regularly just doing blocks of admin and like getting stuff off my plate. So you can see, like, by the time I'm finished properly doing all of this, I will have probably maybe a couple hundred tasks there on the list. And because I sort of have started to like gamify it and wanting to get rid of those tasks, I just start doing them and doing them and doing them. And I do feel like I've been executing on a much higher level this quarter on stuff to do with the business and that sort of work, like more on the administrative and personal admin side rather than necessarily on the deep work side. But I've been finding that doing all of this work has been a huge help for my PhD work, because I've been able to sit down and do work and not be thinking about other things. And same way when I'm spending time with important people in my life, I don't find my mind is wandering to other things. And that's been a huge part of doing it for the personal growth side of things, is that I was constantly so overwhelmed with all of these things I needed to do that I didn't feel like I could be present in my deep work or in my relationships. And I was able to go to New York and have something really big still happening in terms of getting something set up on the website and having the nationwide program air, and still be able to just mostly enjoy my time. The only time I really couldn't was the day that the nationwide was coming out. I was definitely like into places in my head, which was unfortunate because I did get to meet two YouTubers, Kaylin and Holly Jane Woodley, Kaylin Applegrace from the Redhead Academic, and I felt like I was definitely sort of a bit distracted during that because that's when our news program was coming out. But otherwise, I think I did really well on the holiday. I didn't open my laptop except for once, which is a really big deal for me. So I do think that's personal growth. And so the other thing I'm working on, I started driving this last quarter. So I've done my first 4 lessons and now I need to start practicing in between lessons. So that's going to be a bit of a project because we need to get the car sorted. We need to start booking in time with either my mom or my sister to take me driving. And then I need to obviously be doing my lessons as well. And then in terms of other personal growth, I think I sort of touched on this at the beginning of the video, but I'm trying to work on being more kind to myself and being more able to appreciate the work that I've done and not be so critical and harsh on myself, which I think as PhD students we all need to do. So I bought this. I think this might help, which I know is a bit different, but this is Okay Fine, I'm Grateful. It says, a journal to catapult me from my default position of griping and negativity to the long resisted stance of counting my blessings, because it turns out that focusing on the positive might actually be better for my mind, body, spirit, in no small part because unhappiness is the gap between expectations and reality. So even though this whole gratitude thing feels like a bandwagon on the woo-woo train, the fact is that deep down I'm ready to start looking at the roses rather than the thorns. And if you absolutely force me to admit it, I will say that actually I do have so much more to be grateful for. So this is, I think, just going to contribute to my happiness, which I think is something that I need to work on for this quarter. Just to be able to not constantly feel like I'm not doing enough or not giving enough to the different areas of my life. So I think it's going to be gratitude as well as congratulating myself on things, which I had previously in a mental health bullet journal spread that I have not done since I haven't been doing bullet journaling. And I think that's going to be a big one that I'm working on, especially with Mental Health Month coming up in May. I'd like to do some sort of addition to the Notion template for mental health reasons. So that's my other big personal growth task. I'd like to start moving down to only doing counselling every second week, which I'm accidentally doing for these couple weeks because I have holidays But then in terms of health and well-being, I had been going to the gym frequently, 2 to 3 times a week, and then doing some home workouts sometimes as well. And I've been doing resistance training and steady state cardio on the elliptical machine. And what I would like to do now to build onto that, I feel like I've built up a good base layer, and I think I'm finally ready to start personal training, even though I know I said last quarter that I wasn't. My boyfriend Jack is a personal trainer, so he, you know, would be able to put together an amazing plan for me. And I think I really more so want to use him for personal training because he's really good. So if anyone ever needs a personal trainer, let me know. Obviously it's not free. It's expensive, but he's really very good. He's worked with like all of my family at this stage, and yeah, but my gym comes with 10 free personal training sessions, and so I'd like to use those just to get like the measurements and stuff done, and maybe just to figure out if there's any specific equipment in the gym that I'm maybe not using right. It's easier to do that there than here. And I also need to be doing some sort of daily stretching, which I had in my last quarter thing and didn't do. So in terms of this next term, I'm sort of shifting this health and well-being to personal care, and it's hard to know what that's in personal growth and personal care. Like they overlap and it's hard to know how to separate those. So basically I want to be doing some sort of daily stretching. I also want to be doing more self-care, so like taking care of my hair and skin and nails and like all of that stuff, because I don't do any of that. I'm also strongly considering getting a personal shopper because I've been really unhappy with a lot of my clothes since we've started opening up. Because obviously there was a big shift with, you know, COVID and whatnot to being at home, comfy clothes and all that. But now when I go out, I just don't feel like I like any of my clothes. I don't feel like any of them are flattering, and it just is making me not so happy. So I'm thinking that it could be worthwhile. It's about €500, and I had saved up about €3,000 for braces, and I had an appointment this quarter where the person basically told me not to get braces, and I was like, okay, fine. So most of that's going to be going into my pension. However, I do think it's important to spend some money on yourself, so I spent more than I anticipated spending in New York because I figured I might as well do a bit of shopping, enjoy my money. Then I think the other thing would be getting a personal shopper and maybe doing some shopping for like spring, summer clothes, which again, I usually hate the most. So that's something I'm strongly considering. If anybody has ever done that before, I know it's a very extra thing to do, but it's like, you know, if it's something that I think will last a long time, having those skills, and obviously will contribute a lot to me feeling better about myself, which is good. So yeah, this is it for all of my goals. That was a long time. I think this video is going to be a long one. So in terms of my reset, I'm just going to be doing this goals part. My other sort of reset activities will be planning and budgeting. In terms of the planning, I'm basically just taking all of those dates and putting them into my calendar, and then doing my weekly usual planning. I'm not going to do a whole thing on that because you don't need to see it. There's other videos. I'll have those linked. That's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any 12-week goals yourself, I'd love to hear those in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks always to my wonderful members who pay a little monthly fee to support the channel. I really do appreciate you. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next video.